Hello, and thank you for tuning in to today's pitch. It's pretty straightforward. Nearly all of the structural problems our society faces comes back to the root of all evil itself: greed. Money makes the world go round, and when those at the top have such an insatiable desire for more, it comes at the expense of our ability to live freely. From so many of us living paycheck to paycheck to seemingly only getting those cash grab remakes of old movies, it's clear greed touches every aspect of our time on this planet. Do you feel like you have real, impactful choices in life? When you make the median income and yet there's only a single affordable house in your city. When you want to live in that city, but you pay the price of your kids only being able to play in a concrete jungle that's getting hotter every year. There are other ways to do this, better ways, and it's time to demand a basic standard of living. Systems are broken in a way that don't just benefit the billionaires, it prevents most of us from even having the opportunity to get by. But if we built the wealth in this country, why aren't we seeing any of it? Today, we can start to change that together. My name is Dylan Belmont, and welcome to this project, Liberty Over Greed. Our ultimate goals are to uncover, connect, and redesign all the institutional failures that allow such an insurmountable divide between us and the ultra-wealthy. In this series of videos and reports, we're going to be developing our war plans in real time, collaboratively. So, where do we start? Of course, we must first uncover what these system failures are. And that should be the easy part. You already live it every day. You know food is too expensive, you know your retirement isn't guaranteed, and you know rent
it's too damn high.
Attempts at fixing these problems thus far have largely been isolated, reactive, band-aid policies. And I think that's because we haven't been following the thread back far enough. You know how if you make a mistake when you're painting, you paint over it a little bit and that still doesn't look right, so you paint over it a little bit more, and before you know it, the government is left with a deformed mess of programs that hardly match the original intent. So why don't we just try again? There's always this sense when talking about big structural issues that that's just how it is. The system is out of our control. Well, quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of hearing that these abstract concepts are supposedly too complex for people like us to understand.
Elsewhere, America's richest man, Sam Walton, who's chairman of Walmart Stores Incorporated, was unaware of the market plunge for most of the day today. And when he was told about it, Walton said he'll take care of his company and the market can take care of itself.
Why is it that the housing market is so crazy, but suddenly when someone faces a medical emergency and can't pay for it, and they go into debt and end up living on the streets because of that chain of events, that was their fault. It was their choice. I don't buy that for a second. If all of us are simply an emergency away from being cast out from society, the painting is far too gone. Doesn't mean we can't learn from those initial roadmaps, though. Found in dusty legislative records that tell us why things were done the way they were done. If you think this country has strayed from its values, this is how we link back. At what point were good intentions corrupted by decisions fueled by greed? Perhaps we haven't always been that vigilant, or maybe we've been too distracted to stop it. Billionaires keep evading their responsibility to our communities with tax cuts, and we only get pennies back. They hope that we take it for granted that it hasn't always been that way. So here's the start of our line of attack. Let's drop any preconceived notions about what the solutions might be until we're sure what led us here in the first place. After that, it's time to connect the dots. I'm sure no one's surprised to hear that those in power try to expand their power. It's a tale as old as time, right? That's why it's the original sin. However, the sheer scope of it all is unthinkable. It's been a slow, thoughtful, coordinated effort on their part. But if none of our problems exist in a vacuum, why are we fighting our battles that way? It's why all these band-aid solutions keep failing. If we actually want to fix things, think wider. Now, understandably, it's been difficult to bring together all those different policy areas. And in part, it's kind of because politics is exhausting enough already. If you don't have kids and aren't planning to anytime soon, education might not be your highest priority to follow. It's kind of a relief when the political flavor of the week doesn't impact you directly. The result, unfortunately, is us missing some of those larger trends. That coordinated effort by the ultra-wealthy is death by 1,000 cuts. They have leagues of lawyers operating at light speed to systemically dismantle all the safeguards we put in place to put limits on their power. Let's make this simple, without the barrage of news then, and zoom out for a second. I'm gonna ask you a question, but don't think political, think personal. What do you want out of life? To earn a decent living? To build a community? Support a family? You see, bits and pieces of all policy areas will ripple back to your answers. A healthy, well-rounded community needs mutual success for that reason. We rely on each other and all of the things that make each other successful. So while it's a bit much to expect to become experts across the board, what we can do is keep an eye on the threat that threads all of these problems together. The ultra-wealthy, the aristocracy, the greedy. We can untangle that insurmountable web, organize it, map it out. Here's where we build our strategy that hits on all fronts for the general welfare. Lastly, the fun part, the redesign. After all, if we're going to be demanding any sort of change, might as well be as specific as possible with what we're expecting. It's time to package up everything we've learned, and hopefully we don't need to argue over those band-aids that only affect the margins anyway. In Congress, sometimes they argue over whether or not they should increase the income tax rate for the ultra-wealthy by like 0.5%. But they seem to be forgetting that Zuckerberg takes a salary of $1 anyway. So it doesn't matter. They're playing an entirely different ballgame to lock down their riches. And for all the ways that they exploit us, we need to match that level of creativity. We've been pinning our hopes for change on business or one-time inspirational leaders because it seems like government efforts aren't really doing anything. It's too slow to respond, it's too bureaucratic to innovate. In reality, though, government is the institution designed to protect us. It has very different tools than businesses, and it can last a whole lot longer than a single person. The double-edged sword, though, is that when the government is run by the people the way it should be, it is what we make of it. When we reinforce those negative qualities, when we kneecap it and shift more of its responsibilities to the private sector, it should be no surprise that the government only keeps getting worse. Let me reiterate. The government exists to protect us from tyrants who infringe on our rights. Now, we haven't always lived up to the American ideal. Sometimes we do, and we're pretty cool. But we have had a clear vision for hundreds of years. There's so much potential here. We broke up corporate greed in the 1910s. We reduced poverty in the 1960s. Turns out it just takes change with actual intention, goals, not surrendering to archaic boundaries. We can't afford to keep forgetting that, especially not when it's time to execute. Those are the 3 steps: uncover, connect, and redesign. For now, my part is to make silly little videos that looks at everything through this framework. It'd be delusional, though, to think that that alone could stop the oligarchy. What can is our collective power. So each one of these steps translates to an action item you can do today. Uncover. Look at the issues you face, no matter how big or small. Let's figure out how they relate back to exploitation by the ultra-wealthy. I don't know your experiences, but I can learn, so comment. Tell me what it is you care about, what kind of world you want to live in, even if it's as simple as not wanting to be forced to tip every 5 seconds. Connect. Explore how people feel and what they think, beyond political talking points that everyone repeats from cable news anyway. Ask the philosophical questions instead, because we're not here to lecture anyone. We're trying to share experiences and find common ground. You might be surprised at how we all usually agree the ultra-wealthy are screwing us anyway. It's just not always clear how much that matters. Redesign. Participate in your local decision-making groups. Every level of politics is part of this larger campaign. State legislatures, city councils, neighborhood associations, county and school boards. The closer you take it home, the more you insulate your own community from greed. And that's what builds strength. There is no right more fundamental to the American experience than liberty. Liberty means that we should be able to make decisions that are best for our family. It's not wild to say we should be afforded the opportunity to achieve what we aspire toward. The ultra-wealthy are keeping us so divided and distracted that we're ignoring our brothers and sisters sleeping on the street, thinking that could never be us. No. We can't let them bulldoze us. We can't let them win. Look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you make $30,000 a year or $3 million. We're in this together because we're all being fucked by heartless monsters with inconceivable wealth who continue to rig the system at our expense. I've worked in government before. I've helped programs for people experiencing homelessness or extreme poverty, and failure is not for a lack of trying on anyone's part. Witnessing that tough road for so many merely held up a magnifying glass to how deeply embedded all of the barriers are in our system. Now, I've faced some of those barriers before too, and I've been lucky enough to where it isn't catastrophic. But my luck, our luck, is running out. As the valley between the ultra-wealthy and the rest of us continues to expand, it'll soon be impossible to avoid their grip on power. Nothing to stop the feudal lords from controlling the peasants, from stealing our wages to furnish their foyers, to punish perceived offenses without due process, limiting our liberty. We've seen this before, and we beat it. But we need to know what we're up against this time. We need to organize. We need to come together if we're going to have a chance. Are you in? If you're new here, thank you so much for watching that video. I'm really grateful you spent that time with me, but I want to give you a quick warning. This page actually covers 2 projects. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to today's pitch.
They're both in the same place because, to me, they don't always feel that different. In both, we're going to be looking at how we got to the place that we are, how broken systems affect the things you love, and what we can tangibly do as a community to make it better. If you see this purple sidebar in a thumbnail, it's a video related to evaluation, categorization, and preservation of video games, the Belmont Index. If you see this orange sidebar, it's a video about the ways we can stop the wealthy and powerful from rigging the government at our expense. Liberty over greed. So if you're watching for politics, I hope it gets you a little interested in video games. And if you're not interested in any of that government shit, well, let's just say there's probably some fun little nuggets sprinkled around those other videos. Do I leak the release date for Half-Life 3 in the Mega Corporations unboxing one? Oh, and if you're watching for neither of those and just want to watch me fail on this journey, good luck. Bring a snack and stay hydrated. If you want to join these projects, I hope you'd consider hitting subscribe. And if you know others who might be interested, feel free to share it with them as well. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.